Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering Unreal Estate and Code Yellow. These are just a couple of classic Season 10 episodes, honestly. Like, they're not popular or unpopular, known well enough without having a reputation. They're very neutral, if that makes sense. Meaning that I've got a blank canvas to work with here in my reviews of them. As always, thank you all for watching the video today. Your support is always so very appreciated. Now, let's just get right into it. Finally. I say that because Unreal Estate was the episode that always comes to mind for me when I'm supposed to be talking about Sold, and so I've been looking forward to getting to it since reviewing that episode. It's just more memorable to me, and it's certainly the episode that I like more out of the two. Yeah, sorry to spoil myself like this, but I couldn't wait, so I guess I should get to talking about why. So, you guys know those kinds of episodes that'll take an integral, foundational aspect of the show and flip it on its head? Yeah, Unreal Estate is that kind of episode, and this time it chooses to turn its focus on SpongeBob's iconic pineapple. I tend to like episodes like this, when they're done well, of course, because the concept of doing this kind of switcheroo is inherently interesting to me. Like, yes, show me something new. Show me what the characters do when something that we as the audience take as a given is changed. And yes, I'm very well aware that I'm speaking dramatically about the Talking Sponge show, but that's my brand at this point, and I'm having fun with it. To actually get into the episode now, I like the beginning of Unreal Estate. I like seeing SpongeBob take care of his house. I don't know, just something about that makes me feel happy, sue me. And the bit with the barnacles was funny. We also see Squidward painting in this first scene, which makes me feel like we haven't seen that in a while. But I'm not really sure since I haven't been paying particular attention to what Squidward has been doing in every episode. And of course, his painting is just as self-absorbed as the rest, and messed up by SpongeBob's antics like usual. And this scene is full of that great animation that I've been talking about. The only thing I don't really like about this beginning scene is the part where Squidward gets inflated with a bunch of water. It takes a bit too long for me, mostly because the joke wasn't funny for me in the first place. From here, Squidward comes up with an idea to get SpongeBob to move away. And I guess in this way, this episode is kind of like a reverse opposite day, which is the episode I think of the entire time I'm watching this one. Kind of funny I think of that episode considering how the real estate fish became an object of internet fixation for a bit before this video came out. Also funny that I think of it since Home Sweet Pineapple or Home Sweet Rubble would probably be more related. But anyway, I love how mischievous Squidward is here. I've been getting wind of some criticisms of Squidward's character in these double-digit seasons, and I think part of the criticism comes from Squidward's mean-spiritedness. I think I've been avoiding reading said criticism, so I could be off the mark. If so, then I disagree. Because first off, this is completely aligned with his character from every season thus far, and second off, even if this wasn't like him, I'm fine with his character going in this direction. To me, it feels less like Squidward is trying to be the normal guy around now, and instead has succumbed to the zaniness of his everyday life, and so he fights back in a just as zany way, if that makes sense. So maybe that's why people don't like his character as much. He's possibly less of a straight man, though I disagree with that too. Specifically talking about the comedic variety, to be clear. Anyway, I'm gonna move on. Wasn't expecting to get into a whole tangent about Squidward in this review. After a funny scene of Gary being the best and Squidward getting his ass whooped, his plan to get SpongeBob to move away starts working. I was worried that the sneezing bit was going to get old, but luckily this episode does it just enough to get the point across, and not much more. The montage of SpongeBob having fun with his house was very unexpected, and I loved it. So cute. Squidward then starts showing SpongeBob around to some new houses, which is where we get the now potentially famous gag of the SpongeBob SquarePants theme song being changed to fit each new house. I loved this gag. The show breaking the fourth wall is something I do thoroughly enjoy, even if I don't typically talk about it. This whole part reminds me a lot of Truth or Square. For others, that might be for the worse, but for me, that's for the better because I did enjoy that episode after all. Now, one of the gags in this bit, I wasn't a huge fan of, but I won't get into it. If you've read, or I guess seen enough of my reviews, you probably know which one it is, and why. Just remember that I adore my soapbox and I loathe fat phobia. After the fourth wall breaking gag, I enjoyed seeing Squidward take SpongeBob to all of the different houses. The environments were pretty cool, the bit in the restaurant aquarium was hilarious, and of course, once Squidward shows SpongeBob the last house, he's the one who falls in love with it, not the little sponge. And then it is of course revealed that the house is not a house, but a rocket ship, which is a hilarious twist that that had I not already seen this episode at least, I would not have expected. And I love how SpongeBob repainted Squidward's house to match his own, because of course he'd do that. These last couple minutes of the episode aren't exactly funny, but they are very enjoyable, so I have no problems here. And then the episode ends with a full shift in the status quo of Conch Street. Squidward and Patrick's house, SpongeBob and Squidward's, and Patrick and SpongeBob's. Great ending. I enjoyed Unreal Estate. I think it was just a nice little episode with Squidward trying to deal with his unruly neighbors, a typical Conch Street trio affair. I think the bit of Squidward in his rocket house was not as entertaining as it could have been, which brings the episode down a little, but I still very much liked this one, and so this episode is being put in my great tier, where it comes into a score of 8.9 out of 10. Finally, back to an episode that I remember premiering, because it's been a little bit since we've had one of those. Although, I'm not entirely sure I actually remember this one's premiere. I'm pretty sure I remember the promo for it, I think. At the time in my life when this episode premiered, I didn't have Nickelodeon playing on the TV as much because I was too busy, so it's pretty miraculous that I can remember any promo for any episode that I'll be reviewing from now on. Yeah, I had a very short-lived period of actually being sat down in front of my TV for episode premieres. Starting with season 10, I typically waited until I could get my hands on the DVDs to watch anything, unless I managed to be around for once. Well, anyway, I think I've explained all of this before now that I think about it. My bad. Okay, let me go to the episode now. Code Yellow is one of those simple episodes, as in consisting of a simple plot. Its main focus is on providing humor and shenanigans, and as always, I am perfectly fine with that. Squidward getting a nose job is the basis for this entire episode, and that's very simple. It's also not a plot I was expecting, and it reminds me both of No Nose Nose and The Two Faces of Squidward, so that's fun. Though I do think the joke involving Squidward's nose being ugly didn't quite land for me, probably because it's been his character design for like 27 years. Once Squidward gets to the hospital for his nose job, shenanigans ensue, starting with SpongeBob covering Squidward's room with all sorts of balloons, flowers, and stuffed animals. The little guy is just so full of love, it's adorable, and squid bobbers, don't start now or so help me God. And then more shenanigans ensue when SpongeBob goes to be a candy striper and eats the stripes off of his uniform, making him look like a doctor. I love his little uniform with the head mirror in this episode, it looks adorable on him. Seeing SpongeBob walking around acting like a little doctor is fun. This episode is kind of like the SpongeBob equivalent of what happened to Patrick in the executive treatment, considering that SpongeBob never meant to pretend to be a doctor, and everyone just assumed that he was. Of course, this would not fly as a legal defense in the real world. Anyway, SpongeBob manages to be surprisingly good at being a doctor. Surprising in-universe anyway. Out of universe, we all know that SpongeBob will end up on top, and it's amusing to watch him be unexpectedly good at this. This part is not particularly funny, but it is enjoyable. This is something I've been saying a lot. Seems to be a trend carrying over from season 9. I'll keep an eye on that. Anyway, I love how SpongeBob's optimism aids him here. It's a good, character moment. I can't think of a better way to describe it. Things get a lot funnier when SpongeBob acts as the doctor for Mrs. Puff. Poor Mrs. Puff, her terror is hilarious, and her help me sets me off laughing immediately. Mary Jo Callett is a treasure. Finally, we get to the part that I thought would take up more of this episode, SpongeBob being the doctor for Squidward's operation. Obviously, in the real world, the same doctors would not be the ones doing all of the procedures in this episode, as the medical field is too specialized for that. Why I just pointed that out, I have no idea, other than the fact that it is my God-given duty to go on tangents about anything I want in my reviews. Anyway, SpongeBob trying to be a plastic surgeon goes about as well as you'd expect, and as he basically becomes a stand-up comedian for the observers. And then we get a bunch of different noses on Squidward, including a Squilliam cameo, which reminds me of how long we've gone without seeing him. In the end, Squidward stays with the nose that he's known all along, at the expense of his own body parts. And the only one who gets away unscathed is SpongeBob, as once he reveals that he's just a fry cook, the other doctors just about lose it. I can't get over how cute SpongeBob is looking in these episodes. Do you guys remember way back, like in my discussion of Season 1, when I talked about how Season 1 understood the assignment of SpongeBob looking and being cute, something that we wouldn't fully return to until later? Well, it's later now. In my Season 1 overview, I specifically said that we wouldn't get this until Season 10 or 11, and it looks like I was right, because the SpongeBob design in this season is the cutest I've seen him outside of select appearances since Season 1, hands down. I think it really just cements the fact that Season 10 might be, like, my favorite art style of the show, maybe? I'm still very partial to Marker Bob and the first 3 seasons in general, even if each of those seasons looks different. Anywho, I quite enjoyed Code Yellow. As I said, it's a very simple episode and it does the job very well. I love a good shenanigans and chaos-filled episode, and this episode truly understood that assignment. I've really got nothing else to say, and so this episode is going to be put in my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.2 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this video with some closing thoughts of mine. It being summer right now is not at all helpful for getting these reviews done. I can tell you that right now. It's hard to sit down and write the scripts when I want to use my little bit of free time to go outside, but we persevere. After all, it's always a better week when I get to talk about SpongeBob. And it's really fun to revisit these old reviews of mine, since it has been just about 3 years since I originally wrote them, which is wild for me to think about. Also, I've heard that apparently Season 17 is premiering soon. Does that mean Season 16 is done? Come on, man, I just finished Season 15. Can't I bask in that for 1 second? Well, I guess I get to bask in it for as long as it takes Nickelodeon to do the physical release of Season 16. Let's hope they actually do that, because they still haven't given the Patrick Star Show any sort of real physical release, which is ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, I'm just tangenting about random bullshit. I'll stop now. And so I'm gonna go ahead and close things out here, and I'll see y'all in the next review.